would you say that Nigerians should give President Tinubu a benefit of the doubt, maybe for another 6 months, so that we can see what he said we will see? Because if someone says, wait for me for a moment, just be patient, and you will see the benefit of my work, should we give him, out of 4 years, he spent over one year, should we give him the benefit of the doubt, maybe till March next year?
Well, I can tell you that we are not going to see anything.
What do you mean?
My people have a saying that a weekend that will be good is from Thursday. Sometimes it's even from Tuesday that you know. You see, this weekend with Bola Ahmed Tinubu is going to be worse than you can ever imagine. Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the typical example of a man who is telling you that he's taking you to Ibadan, but he's facing Meduguri, and you are telling us to give him time. So give him time to drive you into Sambisa Forest or what?
Honestly, Barrister Deji and the other people that have courage to come out to take this Tinubu government, the bitter truth, supposed to be encouraged and as well as applauded, yes. Because some people will say, okay, Deji was kind of, supporting Tinubu during the election. But at the end of the day, these people have seen that Tinubu is not leading us anywhere, and they have the courage to come out to tell them the bitter truth. I think they need to be applauded, honestly. So my people, in this particular video, Deji really said a lot of things, especially the price of fuel that we are witnessing now. And he called Tinubu General Tinubu because, according to Deji, he said that Tinubu is dancing more than the military. And that is just the truth, because what we are hearing now is treason. And this is the language that we normally hear from a military regime. So I don't really know what we are practicing in Nigeria right now, honestly. My people, Deji really said a lot of things, especially this Dangote refinery, because a few days ago, Dangote came out to say that the refinery is going to start producing, fuel and this and that. People were kind of rejoicing. But at the end of the day, we heard that the price is going to be more than 1,000. Then, my people, what is the need? What is the need? I don't know what is going on in Nigeria, honestly. My people, let me allow you guys to watch this video in full and hear everything Barrister Deji said in this particular video. But before then, if today is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, share it as well. Thanks so much for doing so.
I mean, interesting days, isn't it? From the August nationwide protest to the event of some of your clients who were arrested. Some of those who participated in that protest were arrested. And recently we hear about the planned increase or the increase in petrol price, some of which issues that you have also raised concerns about. But first, let's start with some of your clients you claim are in police custody, and now they're being charged to court for various offenses. What's your reaction as a lawyer to some of these persons in the first place?
Yes, because the matter is before the court, and the matter is now subsidies, because I'm an interested party in the matter, and I'm one of the lawyers to the protesters. I will not be able to comment on the propriety or the otherwise of the charge before the Federal High Court. However, I must add that citizens do have the right to protest, and this right cannot be donated by individuals or agencies of government, and that this right is a constitutional right, and I enjoin all Nigerians to protest at will and to protest against bad governance, just like many citizens did in August and many more citizens are planning to do in October. Having said that, it's important to note that these rights cannot be derogated from. The exceptional circumstances where these rights can be derogated from are captured in Section 45 of our Constitution, and none of those circumstances have arisen either arose during the last protest or as arisen as at today. So there was no justification whatsoever for government to have clamped down on protesters the way they have. Having said that, it's also important that this government is tending towards tyranny, and it's most unfortunate, especially as this government is a beneficiary of the June 12 struggle against suppression, against balkanization of civil liberties by the military, and a government that has benefited, a government that majority of the participants of the government have benefited from protesting against Ibrahim Babangida, against General Abacha, against Goodluck Jonathan. It now appears to me that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu may as well be called a general because it appears to me that the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is even dancing more than the military now by accusing protesters of treason and treasonable felony offenses. Very ironic, I must say, and indeed it's a parody of some sort, no matter how you look at it. In my mind, the irreducible minimum in a democracy is that people must have the right to dissent, people must have the right to freedom of assembly, freedom of expression. Even journalists are not spared. Anyone who is seen as a critic, who is seen as opposing the government, is now an enemy of state and is now treated like a common criminal. But the real criminal, the bandits, the terrorists, are having a field day. God forbid that our democracy will be turned to a military-style kind of democracy. And it's ironic that the people who protested, even on October 1 at the National Stadium with us, who protested in support of the president, have not been arraigned on treasonable offenses.
But so you look at the issues, you have a problem with some of the charges and they will have their day in court. And you imagine that there was a valid order of court restricting the protesters to a certain places in some part of the country. We saw that such order in Lagos, in the FCT. In the FCT, specifically asking the protesters to stay within the premises or the perimeter of the National Stadium. And some of those persons that are outside will be seen to have flouted the law, don't you think?
Well, the order of the Federal High Court, which was made available to some of us at the venue of the protest on August 1, was served to us very late. While that order...
Does that mean that it's not valid?
No, why...
Either served late or early.
No, why...
As a lawyer, does that invalidate the order of court?
While that order subsisting at the time it was served on us, we enjoined protesters to stay within the National Stadium. However, it's important to note that there are a plethora of cases, even up to the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court has held that protesters cannot be restricted to a particular venue. Having said that, we still enjoin protesters to stay within the ambit of the National Stadium until pro-government vehicles escorted by security people brought thugs to the National Stadium. Journalists were there. Many journalists, they witnessed this. So the protesters had ample justification, but that is just by the way. In direct response to your question, there used to be a time when we used to say in this country, God forbid a day will come when citizens who express their dissatisfaction with government or governance structure can no longer go about their daily life because security agents are now on their trail, or security agencies who were meant to protect them have turned against them. And that day that we used to fear that may that day never come has come. That under a Bola Ahmed Tinubu regime, as I would now like to call it, under a Bola Ahmed Tinubu regime, that we now have a situation where people are now being threatened to protest, not to protest, and people are now being threatened not to dissent or criticize government.
So you look at it this way. You are of the opinion that Nigerians, that you have said that people should go out to protest.
At any time that they feel.
But do you fear the kind of escalation that happened and we saw to the point that 6-7 states imposed curfew because of the escalation of that protest? Is it safe for anyone to go out to protest in the Nigeria of today?
Yeah, citizens can protest any time. They can protest tomorrow, they can protest next
week. What about the safety of it? The people that have been killed, people that have been injured.
The safety of protesters is the constitutional responsibility of government. The Constitution is explicitly clear about that the protection of life and property shall be the primary responsibility of government. It is the responsibility of the police, that the police, instead of attacking protesters as we saw during the recent protests, that they should safeguard the protesters, they should protect the protesters. So the whole idea of criminalizing protests is unconstitutional, and cannot be accepted in a democracy.
The question is, are you bothered if you're asking people to go to the street? You're asking them to go and meet their doomsday, to meet their death. Is that fair to do? As one of those leaders, those who are clamoring for people to go to the street?
Well, it will be most unfortunate if the body language of the president now suggests, or the government suggests, that people can no longer protest because if they go to the street, police will shoot them, security agents will shoot them, as we saw the shooting of protesters in Kaduna, as we saw shooting of protesters here in the FCT, as we saw shooting of protesters in Bauchi, in Azare, in Borno, and in other parts of the country. And it will be to the discredit of government. When there is enabling environment for people to express their constitutional guarantee right, government takes credit for that.
So now I understand some of your friends are planning another round of protests in October.
It's a constitutional right. It's a right that
I'm talking about the safety of people, the lives of innocent people that have been killed.
The people who are planning this protest are fighting for you, fighting for me, fighting for everybody. Are you not a living witness to how this current government have turned fuel stations to carnival centers, where when you pass, you think Davido, Bonabo, and Whiskey, they're having a concert, and people are struggling? How, in the midst of all the economic hardship, this president feels that this is the right time to increase fuel price with what Nigerians are going through with them? Is this how to address the inflation problems that we are facing in the country? And you say people should not protest? People are going to protest.
But the question that I'm asking is that, yes, inalienable right of every citizen to protest, freedom of association as enshrined in our constitution, in our extant laws. But the question is that at what cost?
At the cost of development, at the cost of freedom, at the cost of ensuring that tyranny does not reign supreme.
When their lives are even in jeopardy,
no cost is too high for citizens to pay.
What about the lives of the innocent that have been shed?
Never in the history of mankind has the oppressors, have dictators, have rulers ever let citizens enjoying their rights.
Is it fair?
Citizens must demand for their rights.
Is it fair to
citizens must insist on their right. Look at how Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement in America, look at all the killings, look at all the persecutions, but they never stopped. They persevered. They kept pushing.
You refer to this government as being dictatorial?
Yes, of course.
Is that fair to say?
Even the military regime, which military regime arrested and arraigned over 2,000 protesters in the history of this country? Which military regime has done that? The Bola Ahmed Tinubu regime has done that. And that is why henceforth I will now start referring to Bola Ahmed Tinubu as General Bola Ahmed Tinubu, because he's behaving like a military ruler. Because even North Korea will be proud that indeed this president is setting tyrannical examples.
Is that not extreme for you to say?
Exemplified.
Yeah, is that not extreme for you to say?
Why will 2,400 protesters be arrested for protesting when bandits are having a field day? Bandits are sharing their live location on TikTok as we speak. And 80-something people were just recently killed in Yobe. They are not angry. The Tinubu government has not arrested one person who was involved. But you arrested 2,000 protesters and you say we should not call this government a military regime? What is the difference between a military regime and this government? There's practically no difference. So our appeal to General Bola Ahmed Tinubu is that he should continue, he should intensify his military tactics on the citizenry. The Nigerians need it. Nigerians need motivation for them to stand up for their rights.
I mean, so when you talked about the issue of the fuel crisis, but before I just go there, what is the fate of some of your clients? PDOM is one of those you have spoken up for. And someone like David Undaye has been linked to some of the charges that the police have read out in relation to the investigation on that matter. How would you describe the scenario around the arrest and the investigation around these persons?
Well, I don't know any PDOM. I know that I have a client called Isaac Bristol, who I'm representing in court. However, because the matter is in court, and court is seized of jurisdiction on that matter, I will still decline to contest, to comment on the matter because of me not being held in contempt of court. Having said that, it's important to re-echo what I had earlier said on freedom of assembly around freedom of expression, that citizens have the right to freedom of expression journalists like yourself, I believe that the PDOM in question is still in the custody of the police. That is my guess from the information I have. You know, that people have the right to criticize government. People have the right to do their work as journalists. The Constitution has empowered citizens to hold government accountable, to hold the media and journalists and the mass media to hold government accountable at all levels, and to expose corruption. And anyone doing it should be commended. It is those who have been exposed for having done one corrupt act or other that should be facing trial, not journalists, not protesters. It is bandits that should be on trial, not protesters. You know, so that is our argument.
You spoke about the situation relating to the price of fuel. The president has said in China that he's a reformer, and he appreciated the work of President Xi Jinping of China. And he said in Nigeria, he's doing a whole lot to reform the situation. And there are those, I mean, a few times the president has mentioned that some of the reforms that he is making are going to be painful in the moment, but in the end, is going to be of benefit to the larger population of Nigerian people.
Well, have you seen the delegation of the president to China? Who goes cap in hand begging to go and beg in China with that kind of delegation? Almost 100 people went to China with the president.
The ones that we see.
Have you seen the plane with which the president went to China? Brand new passenger plane. How do you go? Imagine if someone comes to your house to beg for money and he drives in a G-Wagon. And also, aside driving a G-Wagon, he comes with a convoy of men and women, all acting so busy. Will you borrow such a person money?
Are you able to confirm that the president went with 100 people?
I've seen the video, almost 100 people. I've seen the video of the
almost
president.
100 people.
Yes, but I've seen the video.
You probably need to confirm how many people there were there.
I don't need
I see governors.
No, I don't need
I see ministers.
Listen, I don't need any confirmation.
I don't want us to I don't want us to place the context on conjectures.
The president went to beg for money in China.
No, he went for a summit.
Beg for money in China.
But he went for a summit.
No.
The China-Africa summit.
The president went to China to beg for money. And he took a delegation of almost 100 people to China. Who does that? He did the same thing when he went to Qatar. The Qataris, after all the PowerPoint presentation he made, the Qataris, they refused to give him any money. Because these are not stupid people. You cannot go cap in hand begging for money. And you come living extravagant lifestyle on the same trip. So, having said that, number two, you said the president says he's a reformer. What reform? Since this president has came into power over a year ago, this president has back-to-back destroyed the economy of this country. Which reforms? Okay, even this idea of the petrol that we're talking about, what is the idea of selling petrol, crude oil to Dangote in Naira, while he sells back the crude oil to maximize profit? The crude oil business is done in dollars. You cannot be selling crude oil in Naira to a man who you don't have the mechanism to checkmate him from when he refines the petrol. Okay, what mechanism do they have? Because Dangote refineries in the free trade zone. You can't stop him after giving him the crude oil in Naira. You can't stop him from taking the crude oil to Chad, to Niger, to Togo, to all these places. You cannot stop him. Okay, so after giving him the crude oil in Naira, then they now say that they will buy, he's going to now sell it. After giving him the crude oil at highly subsidized in Naira, they now say he will now sell it back to them. Then they will now subsidize Dangote, because you can't say you are subsidizing Nigerians. They will now subsidize Dangote, so that because he will now sell it at an exorbitant price for them. So I don't know when this subsidy fraud is going to ever end in Nigeria. So there is nothing in place to show that this Bola Ahmed Tinubu regime are ready to solve the problem of fuel as regards to subsidy in Nigeria. I have not seen any effort or any concrete policy that they are taking that will ameliorate the suffering of Nigerians. Look at how long we've had these fuel queues, almost 3 months. And Okay, so if they want to be subsidizing Dangote, does it mean that the people that now that have been importing fuel into the country for decades will no longer bring fuel into the country? Something is amiss, and Nigerians are not being told the whole truth.
Really?
Yes, indeed.
NNPC came out to say we can no longer bear the burden of paying for the operational and the logistic costs of lifting. And I mean, there are facts that came out that about 5 to 6 billion NNPC is indebted to that amount of money. Would you think that they should continue to pay for that?
Okay, so as of today, the importers of petrol to the country, they say landing cost is 1,117 per liter. Unofficial. So it means government subsidizes the rest, right? Unofficial, now Dangote wants to be selling crude oil from his refinery at 1,300 per liter. Which is better? Is it not better for us to continue buying the fuel, bringing the fuel, landing it at 1,117 than to buy at Dangote?
What do you have against the Dangote refinery?
Absolutely nothing. I think that some critical stakeholders have done a deal somewhere and that they want to start subsidizing Dangote. That is the only thing. Because it doesn't make any sense that you sell crude oil to him in Naira. He should sell at 500 Naira. Because you're already selling the crude oil to him in Naira. The crude oil business, universally, is a business that is traded in dollars. You cannot tell. Let's assume that you're an IOC. You are the one doing the crude at the oil well. And when you do the crude, you can sell the crude at the international market in dollars. The government is now forcing you to sell the crude to Dangote in Naira. Why will you do that? And let's even say government forces you to sell to Dangote in Naira. Should fuel not be cheaper in Nigeria than the fuel that they bring into the country? Because now Dangote's fuel that is refining here is more expensive than the fuel that they are bringing into the country.
Whose fault is that?
It's NNPC. It's Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He's the one that wants to start subsidizing Dangote.
Is Bola Ahmed Tinubu the MD of NNPC?
He's the Minister of Petrol. We must stop shifting the buck. The buck stops at his table. He must take responsibility for the failure in the oil sector. Every single inadequacy and incompetence in the oil sector, he's to blame.
So the cues that we are seeing today and the hike in the price of fuel, we should blame the president.
Yeah, of course. And you also need to know.
What about the deregulation?
You also need to know that these few cues that you are seeing, they are artificial.
Really?
Yes, they've been trying to increase fuel to 1.3 since February. Since February this year. That's when they've been. In fact, they wanted to increase fuel around June. It was because of the protests around end of June. It was because of the threat of the protests. That's why they paused and stopped. So they had wanted to create the artificial scarcity. If you recall, this artificial scarcity started since towards end of June. So it had always been in the pipeline. And I said it, you can go to my social media and check. I said, as way back as June, I said they want to increase fuel price to 1,002, 1,003. I said it since June. So there's nothing you are seeing today that we did not know. After all, we have friends in the system.
Now, if you look at what is going on, those who will argue that the regulation is at play, the market forces are determining already, and this has been the fear of those who say, if you remove subsidy, this is what will happen. But you now come around to blame the government when the market forces in the capitalist economy is at play.
My analogy is very simple. Before this government came, we're paying about 300 billion for subsidy cushion, right? Now we are paying almost about 1 trillion naira. Why? These are questions that need answer. They tell you, oh, it's because they floated the naira. Okay, now they import fuel. Even if they are importing fuel from no matter where, even if it's Brazil or anywhere they are bringing fuel, landing cost of petrol is 1,117 naira. Crude oil that we give Dangote in our backyard, Dangote says he wants to be selling fuel at 1.3. Come on. And you said I should be hailing Dangote? The fuel they go and refine from Brazil and bring here, landing cost is 117. Dangote wants to be selling his fuel at 1,003, and you said nothing is amiss. Definitely something amiss, and these are the questions that Nigerians should be asking.
Where do you think we should go from here?
Well,
Because the blame game won't solve the problems.
To start with, the president should resign as Minister of Petrol because he has no idea on what is going on there. Get a competent person.
But this is someone who has worked within the oil and gas sector for years.
The only experience he has shown since he became president is that he has helped Wando to acquire a major oil asset. That's the only experience he has demonstrated.
Is that fair to say?
It's a fact. It's the truth. Even him cannot deny that.
To limit the powers and the ability.
His greatest achievement as Minister of Petroleum. His greatest achievement is that he helped Wando.
How do you say he helped? Do you have facts to that?
Oh, he did not help them? Why didn't this happen under Goodluck Jonathan?
Is Wando not a private interest?
Why didn't this happen under Goodluck Jonathan?
Why
didn't it happen under Buhari?
Is Wando the only
Why
one
is it happening under him when it is his family member that is benefiting? Why didn't it happen under the previous government if he didn't help them?
Is there a crime there?
Oh, there's no crime there.
I'm asking. You are the lawyer.
You do not see any conflict of interest?
No, explain to us.
As president and commander-in-chief of a country, that you personalize governance, you familiarize governance, that governance now is about you and your friends and your family. That's what governance should be. That there's no conflict of interest, there's no moral burden or obligation, there's no guilt about what has just happened in the oil sector, and he's a minister of petroleum. Is this how nations should? People have resigned as presidents in other crimes for lesser crimes.
Is that a crime?
Yes, it's a crime.
A crime of what? How do you define
conflict of interest?
Is that a crime?
Yes, it is.
Under which law?
Law is not just about the letters and the written words. Morality is an integral part of law. Societies exist. Law, the foundation of law is based on morality. And that is why it's a crime.
And I've asked you, where do we go from here? You said that the president should resign as the minister of petroleum. Would that solve the problem?
The second solution, simple solution, is that these refineries, they must all be sold. Government has no business doing business in Nigeria. We have seen time and time and time again that it's not working, that the bureaucratic bottlenecks, the people who never want these refineries to work, they will never let it work. But if these refineries go into private hands, they'll work. And thank God that we are beginning to see that NNPC and maybe is metaphysical solutions that are working at NNPC, that the idea is being, played with. But these refineries must go. They must go into private hands. And again, it's better and good for our economy. You cannot have an economy that's built around Dangote, Aliko Dangote. You understand? Monopoly does not help any nation. So let them sell the refineries. That's another alternative solution. And lastly and finally is that we must support EFFC to go after corrupt people. EFFC is one agency of government that needs the support of everyone in the country. And EFFC must enjoy, look at what has happened with Yabelo. It sends a message that certain people are above the law. Look at what has happened to the protesters. It sends a message that certain people are put beneath the law. People who have who have not done anything but demanding for end to bad governance. Is it that the government wants bad governance to fester, to continue? But look at how Yabelo has been shielded from arrest, from prosecution by powers that be. So we must support accountability, transparency, and that people who have done wrong, that they be held accountable. They face, the law, and that and also in addition to that is general application of rule of law. And this is where Singapore and other countries that move from third world to first world got it right.
If you look at, you've criticized heavily the Bola Tinubu government, and you've said to me once that the cabinet is not one that you are happy with.
Indeed.
What would the president do with its team? There is a KPI that has been set, and there is a manager to monitor, to assess and monitor the performance and the key indicators to guide their performance. But in your own view, what do you think is going on?
Okay, so aside, yes and Wike, I went to Kuje prison yesterday and I saw the level of work going on. Some people think, oh, Wike is just, yes, he's doing some eye service here and there in the city center. He's scraping good roads to redo them. However, the level of work I saw in the Kuje axis that has been done by Wike is truly, truly commendable. Aside him, Tunji Ojo, Minister of Interior, and a few others, many Nigerians do not even know more than 4 or 5 ministers in this government. And that is to tell you the level of incompetence of these ministers. One will have thought that because of the failure of these ministers, 80-something people were slaughtered in Yobe. 80-something people. Nobody is calling for any form of accountability in that ministry, the ministry in charge of safeguarding lives and property. Nobody is calling for any form of accountability. They are busy wasting taxpayers' money at the Federal High Court, parading protesters and charging them with treason. The people who should be facing treasonable charges are killing people. Unchallenged in the Northeast, in the Northwest, in the North Central, all over the country. There's general insecurity all over the country. So, and it is the president that is to blame, because the president cannot be in every ministry working. The president appoints people there. People who he appoints are supposed to be competent to tackle the economic, social, and political challenges in the country. And when they fail to do so, then the buck stops on his table when he refuses to sack them, when he refuses to reshuffle his cabinet, and when he refuses to rejig his cabinet. So then he must take the blame for the failure in Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Defense. So he takes the blame, and nobody else is to be blamed but the president.
If you were the president, what would you do to the ministers?
Believe me, if I were to be the president, on Democracy Day, May 29th, I will have removed most of the ministers. And I will have reassigned portfolios to performing ministers. That's what I would have done if I was the president. And because the buck stopped on my table, I cannot blame an incompetent minister. After all, it was me that appointed him. So, and because I know that if I do not perform, elections are going to come, and that the people will hold me accountable for the failures of those people. So, the failures of those ministers are my failures, and their success is my success. So I would have sacked majority of the ministers, and I would have appointed competent hands to man the ministries.
If you look at the manner in which things are going in the country, and you imagine that our economy, all of the indices, and perhaps the manner in which the president is approaching a lot of things, that those who will say, well, in the last one or so quarter, we've seen an improvement in the figures released by MBS. Is that an indication of what the president has said? That look, it's a matter of time. You will start seeing the benefit of some of the policy. Would you say that Nigerians should give President Tinubu a benefit of the doubt, maybe for another 6 months, so that we can see what he said we will see? Because if someone says, wait for me for a moment, just be patient, and you will see the benefit of my work. Should we give him, out of 4 years, he spent over one year, should we give him the benefit of the doubt, maybe till March next year?
I can tell you that we are not going to see anything.
What do you mean?
My people have a saying that a weekend that will be good is from Thursday. Sometimes it's even from Tuesday that you know. You see, this weekend with Bola Ahmed Tinubu is going to be worse than you can ever imagine. Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the typical example of a man who is telling you that he's taking you to Ibadan, but he's facing Meduguri, and you are telling us to give him time. So give him time to drive you into Sambisa Forest or what? Nothing is going to come out of this government, I can assure you. And you are going to remember, you recall during the presidential election, I kept saying that the opposition should come together. That if they don't come together, they are going to lose. People called me all sorts of names. Look at today. After the loss was when they started taking my advice. And today, let me also send a charge to them that the time to come together again is now. That they should not wait, and that they should not allow their egos. We know that politicians and their egos can be very huge. That they should not allow their egos to determine the level of conversations that they are having. You see this Bola Ahmed Tinubu that we are seeing, who is charging protesters for treason, is going to attempt third term.
That is not captured in our laws.
Was it not Akpabio? You have a man like Akpabio in the National Assembly, and you say that's not captured in our law. If Bola Ahmed Tinubu tells Akpabio to jump, Akpabio will say, should I jump to my death? Or how high should I jump? Akpabio that amended the Police Act in one day.
That's unfair to say. One man cannot amend the law. The National Assembly is
Have
responsible.
you seen senators saying no and Akpabio will say yes? He has done it on national television. There's nothing I'm saying that is not true that we have not seen. He doesn't even allow people to debate. People will raise their hands up in opposition. He doesn't listen to them. You cannot have a dangerous man like that, like Akpabio in the National Assembly.
What do you mean dangerous? Is that not getting too far, Deji?
Of course. Anybody that tells you, Akpabio with his own mouth said that anything the president wants, they will do it. How can you have a legislature? How can you have a legislature that the head of a legislature is the head of the National Assembly? How can you have the head of the legislature saying that anything the president, the legislature is supposed to act as a check and balance?
They say it's in the interest of the Nigerian people.
In the interest of the Nigerian people is why you amended the Police Act to extend the tenure of the Inspector General of Police at the detriment of DIGs, AIGs, CPs. So people will not be marking time in the police. And you think this will not cause disaffection because of one man. If they've done it for the police, they're going to do it for the army. They are going to extend, write it down. They will do this same thing for Lagbaja and other people that are doing their bidding. Nations are not built based on the selfish interest of individuals. Laws are not made to meet or to be tailored against the Inspector General of Police. You cannot be doing laws for a person. You do laws for the generality of society. And it was Justice Rose Vivor that said at the Supreme Court in the case of Nwadiagbo and Anambra and Imo River Basin Development Commission Authority that once strong men begin to use institutions to their advantage, that you will have a situation where institutions will be extremely weak and the will of strong men will continue to prevail. And that is why you can see the will of strong men prevailing under the Bola Ahmed Tinubu regime. Until in that same case, Justice Rose Vivor, JSC, said that until we have strong institutions, our country will never progress. So the focus of every administration should be building strong institutions that is beyond men. You cannot be making laws for the benefit of few individuals and you tell me that we have a legislature. We do not have a legislature, unfortunately. We have a rubber stamp legislature, and it is most unfortunate.
So, in essence, you do not think we can give the president a chance, a benefit of the doubt. That's what you're saying.
He's driving in the wrong direction. He's taking us to Maiduguri, and the nation wants to go to Ibadan. So there is no chance because we can see that these policies.
Are you not being pessimistic?
It's not being pessimistic. It's being real.
Your perspective of how things should go might not be right.
In 1 year.
In your analysis of how things should go might not be right.
Yes, in 1 year.
And there are those who will give you examples of how economies of the world have gone in similar path, but eventually they rebound.
No economy of the world has gone this path before and rebounded. In 1 year of the Bola Ahmed Tinubu regime, he borrowed more money than Buhari borrowed in 8 years.
Is that a fact or that's
you can confirm?
That's not quite true.
No, it's correct.
It's not quite true. That's not exactly true.
No, it's true. You can fact check me. Fact check me.
No, it's not exactly true.
No, I said this is what he has done. You can fact check me. Now, are you not delighted that we are now the third largest borrower from IMF? It's an accomplishment. That's the direction that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is driving us. He's taking us to Maiduguri, close to Sambisa Forest. We can't give him time. Because the more time we give him, the more destruction
it's constitutional to give him time. He has 4 years.
Of course, nobody is struggling his 4-year mandate with him. But we are saying that this place you are going, and this is what the protesters are saying, that this road you are going, you must make a U-turn. And citizens have the right. Citizens even have the right to demand that the president resign. Citizen is a constitutional guaranteed right.
Has it gotten to that point?
It's so that it doesn't get to that point. That's why everybody is shouting. You are taking us to Sambisa Forest. please, Mr. President, make a U-turn. The man says no, that his economic policies are paying, are going to yield fruits. And that's why he took almost 100 people to China to go and borrow money.
So, my people, that is it. I hope you guys had everything Barrister Deji said in this video, which I believe that he has spoken the minds of many Nigerians. Honestly, we don't know where Tinubu they carry us, they go. Hey, this is the reason why Nigerians came out, during the protest to tell Tinubu that he should do a U-turn, because the direction that he is going is very, very dangerous. My people, look at what Nigerians are going through. And this to show you that this government, they are not even listening. And they are not ready to listen. Like, it's only God that will save us in this country called Nigeria. So, my people, as I bring this update to you guys, I don't know what you think about what Barrister Deji said in this particular video, which I would love you guys to leave your thought in the comment section. Just as I said before, that if today is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share for more updates. Yes, I'm going to see you guys in my next one. Thanks so much for watching. Goodbye for now.
Welcome to Chamber Seniors TV.